So much going on this Monday morning. It is February 16th. It is nice to be with you here on 11Alive. Plus, for the next hour here from the Streaming Center, we are on Verdict Watch in Athens. Potentially a verdict coming down as early as this morning in the Tara Baker case. We'll keep an eye on that. Also, opening statements underway as we speak in the Colin Gray murder trial. That's District Attorney Brad Smith speaking to the jury right now, showing some of the victims from the Appalachia High School shooting. You can scroll down and then over right now on the Plus app if you want to watch that in full. Otherwise, we will get back to those in just a few moments. But we know you also want to know about the weather and what's shaping up to be a pretty nice week after a rainy Sunday, Chesley.
It was a rainy Sunday. We got close to an inch of rainfall at the airport, and so much needed rain, not enough to drop the drought that we have over us, but enough to put a damper on our Sunday. Now, Monday, we're looking much better. Take a look at Athens. Athens this morning was looking like, well, a big gray nothing. We couldn't even see the buildings out there. And now the sun has risen, cooked some of that fog off, and so we're looking much better at least for this morning. Now, I do want to show you the visibility map here at 10 miles visibility over toward Athens, but just to the north where you see that gray area there heading into South Carolina is where we still have a little bit of fog left over. Had the clouds around this morning as well, but those clouds are now gone. And so we're going to hold on to the sunshine for the rest of the afternoon. Temperatures were starting off in the 40s, and now we got the 50s out there. 55 degrees in Atlanta. Still some 40s around, like you have Gainesville at 48, 47 up into Blairsville. We're at 55 also in Peachtree City, 54 in LaGrange, and 51 degrees in Carrollton at the current hour. Going to watch that temperature rise into the 60s today. 67 degrees, your afternoon high temperature under mostly sunny skies. It's a good 10 degrees above where we should be for this time of year. We should be at our noon temperature of 58. High pressure is building into the southeast. There's not much going on here, and we'll take that high pressure as well. We'll start to slide a little further over toward the east, and so we'll get into an easterly flow, especially as we head into the afternoon. Winds out of the east will be anywhere between 7-8 miles per hour or less for today, just enough to give us just a slight breeze, but it's going to be a nice one out there, folks. Got to take advantage of it. That mild air is in place. This will be the coolest day of the week. Temperatures will continuously warm up as we go. Now, that warm air will try to get in here, but when I say warm air, I'm talking about 80s. That'll be back toward Dallas into New Orleans. We'll try to creep our way, but I think we'll stay on the mild side. We'll get up to 70 on Wednesday. Now, the clouds will have something to say about that temperature, but we think with that southerly flow, that southeasterly flow, it's going to help to boost those temperatures up a little bit. And we stay right there for Thursday. Even into Friday, got a front coming in, and that's what's going to bring in the rain as we head into Friday. Right now, it looks to be late afternoon toward the evening that we'll see those showers, and that will carry us into Saturday as well. Here's how it all plays out. Forecast track model shows those clouds getting out of the way. We'll have mostly sunny skies for the rest of the afternoon, looking great. Tuesday will start you off that way. We're going to start off with mostly sunny skies. By the time we get to the late afternoon, more clouds will start to bubble in. In fact, they'll continue to fill in through the overnight going into Wednesday morning. We're going to start you off with mostly cloudy skies and stay right there for the rest of the afternoon on Wednesday. 70 for the high Wednesday, 75 by Thursday, 77 for the high by Friday. Of course, we'll pay for that with a little rain heading into Saturday. Front comes through and knocks those temperatures right back down again, closer to where we should be by Sunday and into the beginning of next week. So please take advantage of these 70s while you can.
Don't have to tell me twice. Chesley, thanks.
You got it.
Hey, we are following other news for you today here from the Streaming Center. But first, this is one of the most highly anticipated trials in recent memory in our area, and it's also being watched nationwide. The Colin Gray trial. Opening statements underway right now. District Attorney Brad Smith presenting his case before the jury. Let's listen in.
Winder. Once they cleared it, then they went next door to Russell Middle School. They cleared it. And just as they were finishing that up, they got a call from their superiors. I was trying to say superior and supervisor at the same time. Their superiors to go to a residence in Barrow County and secure it. They were just given an address. They don't know why they're going there. They are just told, go to this residence and secure it until other officers can arrive. Where they're going is the shooter's house. And when they get there, Colin Gray meets them in the garage. And without any prompting, because remember, they don't know why they're there, they don't know who this guy is. Without any prompting, he blurts out, "I knew it. My little girl just texted me. She's in middle school. She said we're in lockdown." I'm like, God Almighty, please tell me your brother didn't do something. Agents with the Georgia Bureau of Investigations arrived shortly thereafter, and they begin a search of the house. And inside that house, in that 14-year-old boy's bedroom, on the wall, they find this. This shrine, for a better word. Those pictures are all of the same person, Nicholas Cruz. Nicholas Cruz was the person that in 2018 went into Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, with an AR-style rifle. And there he killed 17 students and faculty and wounded another 17 more. Investigators look at this and they begin to wonder, who is this kid? His name is Colt Gray. He's the oldest son of Colin Gray. His mother is Marcy Gray. He has a younger sister named Jenny, who was 13 years old at the time of this incident. She was actually going to Heyman Morris Middle School, which is directly next door to Appalachia High School. He has a little brother, Coley, who was 8 years old, was going to his elementary school. Now, Colt Gray, raised here in Bexar County, he went to Statham Elementary School up until fourth grade, up till the beginning of fourth grade. And in the beginning of fourth grade, he was withdrawn from Statham Elementary School because the family had moved. They moved to Gainesville. And he goes to White Sulphur Elementary School, but only for a few months. Because again, the family moved again. Now they moved to Cumming. And he goes to Chattahoochee Elementary School. But again, only for a few months. In March of 2020, they moved to Fitzgerald in Ben Hill County, Georgia. It's South Georgia, kind of east of Tifton. Because there, Marcy's mother and father, Deborah Polhamus and Charlie Polhamus, live. And Deborah Polhamus's mother, Marcy's grandmother, Colt's great-grandmother, had passed away and left the house. So there's an available house for them to live in. So they moved down to Fitzgerald on March 4th of 2020. But if you remember that day, that's the week before COVID shut everything down. That was the end of Colt's fourth grade year. Fifth grade. Now this is going to be the fall of 2020 into the spring of 2021. That's fifth grade year. Colt goes to Ben Hill Elementary School. But remember, this is when COVID is raging, and it's mostly virtual. He's mostly at home using the school computers. The next year, sixth grade, fall of 2021, he starts a new school, Ben Hill Middle School, because he's in sixth grade now. And early in that year, 11-year-old Colt, at home, using the school computer, searches the word abuse. A few hours later, he searches the phrase, "how to kill your dad." That was on September 19th, 2021, 3 years before he took that rifle into Appalachia High School. School resource officers are sent to the house to check on him. Everything's fine. It was just a mistake. Misunderstanding. But a defects case is opened on the family. But the family leave Fitzgerald and move to Jackson County 6 weeks later, in November of 2021. So in November, they come up here to Jackson County, Georgia. But they don't enroll the kids in school until February of 2022. Colt finishes out his sixth grade year at West Jackson Middle School. Seventh grade, fall of 2020. 1 year after he searched How to Kill Your Dad, and 2 years before Appalachia, 12-year-old Colt starts Jefferson Middle School. It's his seventh school in 4 years. That Halloween, halfway through the semester, Marcy, his mother, gets drunk, passes out in the car in the driveway of the house. Jenny and little Coley are trick-or-treating, and they get separated. Coley gets lost. Authorities are called. another DFACS case is opened on the family. Marcy and the two siblings, little Coley and Jenny, they moved back down to Fitzgerald in November of 2022. But Colt stays up in Jackson County with the defendant. DFACS caseworker Tamika Mitchum is monitoring Marcy and the two siblings down in Fitzgerald, and DFACS caseworker Michaela Anderson is monitoring Colt and the defendant up here in Jackson County. And starting in March of 2023, during his 7th grade year, Michaela Anderson visits his residence monthly. Every month, she shows up to check on Colt, see how he's doing, check on his well-being. And the defendant always says the same thing. Colt's doing well in school. He doesn't need any counseling. But that's not really true. Colt is full of intense anger, and he's having a hard time dealing with it. On Sunday, May 21st, 2023, this is the end of Colt's 7th grade year at Jefferson Middle School. In fact, classes had ended that Friday, and this is that Sunday. And on that Sunday, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office gets a tip from the FBI. There's an app that you can get on your computer called Discord. And this app is popular with video game enthusiasts, but it allows people from all over the world to talk to each other on the computer. And users in a chat room on this app, a true crime chat room, report to the FBI that another user is threatening to shoot up an elementary school. This user is threatening to do this. It says they have access to guns. It says they plan to do it within the next 2 years. The FBI passes this tip on to Jackson County because when you look at the IP address of that user, it comes back to a Colin Gray and an address in Jackson County. Deputy Justin Elliott and investigator Dan Miller go to that address. Now, the current resident of that address has 2 daughters, and they don't use Discord. But they're new to that address, and they keep getting the mail of the previous tenant, Colin Gray. Deputy Elliott and investigator Miller then go to his new address. They speak with the defendant at his house, and they tell him about this threat on Discord. And they ask him, does Colt have access to guns? Which he does. But the defendant says that he and Colt, they take this school shooting stuff very seriously. And Colt denies to these officers that it was him on Discord. He says his Discord account got hacked. The defendant makes no mention to these officers that less than 2 years before, Ben Hill officers had also been to his house when Colt searched How to Kill Your Dad, also on a computer. But before they left, investigator Miller asked the defendant to please restrict Colt's access to guns. Less than 3 weeks later, when DFACS agent Michaela Anderson goes back out to the house like she's been doing monthly to meet with the defendant, and again, she asks, how's Colt doing? He makes no mention to her of this visit from the sheriff's office. 2 weeks after that, on June 23rd, the defendant signs a lease to move out of Jackson County into Winder. But he doesn't tell Michaela Anderson he was planning on doing that, and he never tells DFACS that he did do that. She just keeps going to an empty house. 2 months later, in August, it's time for another school year. Colt's not at Jefferson Middle School anymore. 13-year-old Colt is enrolled at Heyman Morris Middle School. This is the middle school in Winder that's directly next door to Appalachia High School. This is supposed to be his 8th grade year. But he's withdrawn from that school 3 days later. He never attends it. Instead, Colt goes back down to Fitzgerald to live with his mother, Marcy. And while he's in Fitzgerald, Colt is still filled with anger. He's still having trouble dealing with it. He's becoming violent. He breaks windows. He cuts up things with a knife. He even starts cutting on himself with that knife. These are the scars from after he was arrested after the shooting a year later. Colt's grandfather, Charlie Polhamus, is at his wit's end. He actually calls the police on Colt. And at the beginning of October 2023, just a few weeks after being in Fitzgerald, Colt comes back up here to Winder to live with the defendant. But he does not attend school. 2 weeks later, on October 13th, down in Fitzgerald, Marcy, who you remember is still being checked on by DFACS, tests positive for drugs. She's going to lose the kids. DFACS worker Tamika Mitchum, who's been monitoring Marcy, calls the defendant, tells him to come down to Fitzgerald to pick up the other two kids, Jenny and Coley, and bring them back up. He now has sole custody of the three kids. Marcy's to have no unsupervised contact. But Tamika Mitchum also stresses to the defendant to get the kids in school and counseling as soon as possible. He does neither of these things. 3 weeks after the kids are brought up here, on November 6th, 2023, back down in Fitzgerald, Marcy basically goes crazy. She wants to come up to Winder. She wants her mother, Deborah Polhamus, to bring her to Winder. And Deborah Polhamus says, "You ain't going to Winder." So Marcy duct tapes her mother to the chair, steals her car, drives up to Winder, goes to the defendant's house, keys his truck, and gets arrested. She spends some time in the Barrow County Jail before she's transferred to the Ben Hill County Jail for the charges down there. And while she's down there, she's released on bond to an inpatient drug treatment facility in South Georgia. She has no supervision during this time over Colt. Now back up here in Barrow County, it's been a chaotic few months for Colt. But that Christmas, after the cuttings and the things with the Jackson County and the moms going crazy, testing positive drugs, that Christmas, the defendant, 7 months after he was told by Jackson County Sheriff's Office of possible school shooter threats and being asked to restrict Colt's access to guns, the defendant buys and gives 13-year-old Colt that Sig Sauer M400 as his Christmas present. And he allows Colt to keep this rifle propped up in Colt's room. Now in February of 2024, 2 months after this Christmas, in February, Colt's siblings, Jenny and Coley, are finally enrolled in school. They've already missed 4 months of school, but they're finally enrolled. Colt does not attend. He misses the entirety of his 8th grade year. But during that spring, when Colt's not in school, the defendant continues to buy accessories for his Christmas present rifle. He buys a Sight Mark Ultra Shot sight to go on the rifle. He buys a bungee sling to go for the rifle. He buys an accessory rail set. He buys a 45-degree offset iron sights. And he buys a lot of ammunition. That summer, 2024, Colt is now 14. It's just a few months before he takes his Christmas present rifle into Appalachian High School. July 6th of that summer, Marcy gets out of rehab in Fitzgerald, and the defendant picks her up and brings her back up to Winder. It's her first contact with Colt in 9 months. Now, Colt, who had always been quick to violence and suffered from severe anxiety, begins to spiral out of control. He's fighting with his father. He's throwing things at people. He's putting holes in his sister Jenny's door. But the rifle stays in his room. On July 20th, Colt has a panic attack at the house. He comes in the living room and he actually asks his parents to call 911 for him. But they don't call anyone. His mental health becomes so bad that the defendant and Marcy together begin giving Colt Marcy's prescription for Zoloft. They're just giving it to him themselves. They worry he's suffering from depression, but they don't take him to see a doctor. It's around this time that Colt puts those pictures of Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland shooter, up in his room. And the rifle stays in his room. August 14th, 2024, 3 weeks before the shooting. It's Colt's first day of Appalachia. School had started 2 weeks earlier, but this was Colt's first day. He missed the first 2 weeks. He had not been inside of school for 15 months. Not since the sheriff's office came to his door about the threats to shoot up a school. And that morning, Colt again is spiraling out of control. He sends a text message to the defendant at 6:49 a.m. He writes, "I'm sick of your shit. This is the fucking end for you. You fucking caused this." 2 minutes later, at 6:51 a.m., he sends this text message to the defendant. "Whenever something happens, just know the blood is on your hands." His first day of school. And the rifle stays in his room. The very next day, August 15th, Colt skips school. He gets into a fight with his mother, Marcy, when she goes into his room to try and get the rifle away from him. With rifle in hand, he shoves his mother to the ground and she hits her head on the wall. She then asks the defendant to please take Colt's rifle and lock it up. He never does. Marcy then has had enough. She goes back to Fitzgerald, once again leaving Colt into the care of the defendant. And the rifle stays in his room. The next day, after this altercation with his mother, Colt asked the defendant to get him 150 rounds of ammunition. The defendant responds to him, "Well, he needs to pay for everything first, but he will. He will." Now, Marcy's down in Fitzgerald, the defendant's up here, but they're still communicating with each other by phone and text. And they begin to worry that Colt needs to be institutionalized. He needs to go to an inpatient facility. He's so bad. They search for places and resources, but the defendant never follows through. He never takes Colt to see any professional, and the rifle stays in his room. August 26th, 9 days before the shooting, Colt has another panic attack, this time at school. It's the one I referred to earlier in the opening. It's only his 4th day he attended school. Remember, he missed the first 2 weeks of school, and he skipped school 5 of the next 8 days. Colt leaves his second period class that day. He goes to the counselor's office. He's too distressed to go back to class. They call his father, but his father can't come to get Colt. Colt ends up spending the entire school day in the counselor's office. That night, on the phone, Colt asks his grandmother, Deborah Polhamus, if he did something terrible, would she still love him? This bothered her so much, Deborah Polhamus, that the next morning she drives up to Winder from Fitzgerald. And on the way, she calls Advantage Behavioral Health Systems. It's a crisis stabilization inpatient place in Athens, Georgia. She talks to them on the phone, and they tell her he must be brought in by a parent. Marcy's in Fitzgerald. The defendant is here. They tell her that Saturday is a great day to come in because most people don't realize they're actually open on Saturdays, and you can just walk right in. But he needs to be brought by a parent. Deborah asked the defendant to take Colt on that Saturday, which would have been August 31st. He doesn't. Wednesday, August the 28th, Colt skips school. This is 2 days after that panic attack, the day after Deborah Polhamus is called Crisis Advantage Behavioral. Colt tells the defendant that he hears voices telling him what to do. This is 3 days before the defendant is supposed to take Colt to Advantage Behavioral, and 1 week before the shooting. At 7:44 a.m. that morning, Colt texts the defendant, I have to kind of dance around the inconvenient truth at times. I have no control over what these things say and tell me to do. And the rifle stays in his room. Colt skips school again the next day, which is a Thursday. That Friday and Monday, school is closed for the Labor Day holiday. And that Tuesday, September 3rd, Colt skips school again. That brings us back around to that Wednesday morning, September 4th, 2024. Those pictures of Nicholas Cruz are still on his wall, and that rifle is still in his room. The defendant leaves to take little Coley to school. Jenny leaves on her bus for Heyman Morris Middle School, which again is directly next door to Appalachia High School. Colt gets his rifle, gets extra magazines, puts them in his book bag. He wraps a poster board around the part of the rifle that sticks out of the bag, and he takes a hat with a Fender guitar logo on it, a stocking hat, and puts it over the top so you can't see it. And then he heads out to meet the bus. A few hours later, just like he'd been warning he was going to do, Colt murders 4 people. Now, after the shooting, which I will remind you happened at 10:22 a.m. So after that, at 11:01 a.m., Jenny, the daughter, texts her father. 3 people are dead at the high school. The defendant texts back a minute later, how do you know? How do you know? She responds, people are saying, and there was an email. Please, I'm scared. She then texts the defendant, I can't call you, I'm in a lockdown. At 12:19, the defendant texts Jenny. Jenny, have you talked to your brother? Jenny replies, no. But I think we're thinking the same thing, and I don't want to talk about it over text. 1 minute later, the defendant replies, yep, 10-4. I'll be here in just a few. Let me know when you get back in the building and when I can come get you. A few minutes later, the defendant arrives at his home. Not Jenny's school, not Appalachia. He goes home. And he runs straight to Colt's room. He has to confirm what he already knows. He goes straight to Colt's room to see if that gun is missing. And it is. Moments later, Anthony Townsend and Brandon Bazinet arrive at his house, and he utters those words, "I knew it." Now, ladies and gentlemen, the charges in this case, it's the same acts that he did. The charges are divided up between whether or not the victim of those acts was a child or an adult. If they're a child, the charges that stem from their victimization would be cruelty to children, because you have to be under 18 for cruelty to children to apply. But through his negligence of allowing Colt to have this gun, knowing what Colt was going to do, he caused cruel and excessive physical pain to the children. That's cruelty to children in the second degree. If that cruelty to children in the second degree results in death, like with Mason Skirmerhorn and Christian Angulo, that is murder in the second degree. So the cruelty and the murder in the second go together. They apply to the children. The two adult deceased, Christina Irmy and Richard Aspinwall, they're above the age of 18. The defendant is charged with reckless conduct, same act, recklessly allowing his child, that he knew this was going to happen, to harm someone else. And because they died during the commission of reckless conduct, that is involuntary manslaughter. So for the adults, it's involuntary manslaughter based on reckless conduct. All the other children who were either struck by a bullet or in that Ryan Edwards classroom when the bullet started flying, they're the victims of charges for cruelty to children in the second degree, either by the physical pain it caused or the emotional anguish it caused. And the adults that were injured or put in harm's way, David Phoenix, Stephen Edwards, and Cassandra Ryan. Got that one. Cassandra Ryan, excuse me. Those three adults, they're the victims of the reckless conduct. Now, at the end of the case, we'll come back before you and ask you to render a verdict of guilty. Thank you.
District Attorney Brad Smith wrapping it up, opening statements right now as the defense team for Colin Gray about to give theirs. Just a reminder, we also are on verdict watch for a trial happening in Athens, the Tara Baker cold case murder trial. But first, let's listen to the defense's statements in Colin Gray's trial.
What happened at Appalachia High School was tragic. It was horrific, it was terrifying, and it was heartbreaking. Nothing said in this courtroom can change that. Nothing that I'm going to say is meant to diminish that. You're going to hear emotional testimony, you'll see photographs, you'll see videos, you'll hear about the fear, the chaos, and the terror that Colt Gray inflicted on that school and this community. But your job is not to decide whether or not that was tragic. We all know that it was. Your job is to decide something much more specific. Your job is to decide whether or not Colin Gray knew what Colt was going to do. Because the state is not just prosecuting the shooter in this case, they're prosecuting the father as well. I want you to remember something as we begin. The courtroom is not a place where we punish people because we're angry, where we punish people because we're grieving. It's not a place where we punish people because we feel someone has to pay. This is a place where we follow the law. And the law requires proof, and the law requires evidence. And the law requires that the state prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. That burden never shifts, not for a single moment. The state's theory will be simple. They'll tell you that Colt Gray allowed his son access to firearms and ammunition. Colin Gray had warning signs, and then Colin Gray, knowing that these were warning signs, consciously disregarded those warning signs. That he should have known his son would, not could, that his son would harm someone. And because the son later committed this school shooting, therefore Colin Gray must be guilty, must be criminally negligent, because he knew this would happen. That's their theory. But what you'll learn from the evidence is that case is not that simple. The evidence will show a teenager who is struggling mentally, a teenager who is deceptive, a teenager who hid his true intentions from everyone, from his family, from his counselor, from his siblings, from DFACS, from law enforcement, and most especially from his father. The evidence will show a father who did not ignore his child. He did not abandon his child. He did not turn his back on his child. The evidence will show between Colin Gray and Colt Gray daily contact, daily effort, and active steps by Colin Gray to seek mental health intervention for his son through the school. The evidence will show that the most important facts, the planning of this shooting, the concealment of this shooting, and the timeline of this shooting were hidden by Colt Gray from his father. That's the difference between tragedy and criminal liability. And this case is about whether the state can prove criminal liability by showing that Colin Gray knew that Colt was going to do this, knew that Colt was going to harm someone else. You cannot hold someone criminally responsible for failing to predict what was intentionally hidden from them. You'll learn about Colt Gray's state of mind that at the time no one knew. You will learn that months before the shooting, Colt had notes hidden on his cell phone from April of 2024, private notes that appear to be the planning stages of this shooting. Those notes were not known to Colin Gray. Those notes were not shared with Colin Gray. There is no evidence of that. You will learn something else. The plans reflected in those notes show that the shooting was initially planned for February of 2025 to coincide with the anniversary of the Parkland High School shooting committed by Nicholas Cruz. The plan reflected in those notes was that that time was going to be when the shooting happened, not in September of 2024. Something changed. The evidence will suggest and support that Colt accelerated his plan. And there's evidence suggesting that that acceleration was tied to the fact that Colin Gray was actively seeking mental health treatment for his son through the school at that time. There are emails to the counselor. There was paperwork he filled out. There was already in motion, already in place, an appointment for Colt to meet with the counselor and to meet with the mental health specialist the very next day, September 5th. Colin Gray did not know about the plans. Colin Gray did not know that Colt was planning to do this and that he would in fact go harm someone else. The behavior that Colt exhibits, the behavior that you'll find from his notes in his cell phone, from his text messages, show that he was actively keeping this information from others, from law enforcement, from DFACS, from counselors, from professionals who know to look for these signs, and most especially from his dad. The state will point, and they've already mentioned to you, an incident in May of 2023 when two Jackson County sheriffs went to Mr. Gray's home to talk to Colt. Fortunately, this interaction is on body-worn camera video, so you'll get to see the whole episode. You will see that Colin Gray is cooperative. You'll see that he brings his son out. He tells the officers that he takes this kind of thing seriously. He tells the officers, you tell me that he did it and those guns are gone today. That is on video. That is undeniable. But the officers don't tell him that. The officers say that they're not sure that it was him that made the threat. He tells the officers that he has a gun in the home. He says that he has a son who is somewhat isolated, who's on the computer a lot. He says that when he was young, he used to enjoy hunting with his father, that they would go deer hunting. And so he was introducing Colt to deer hunting, that they had gone out a year before. Colt had killed his first deer. That the gun that they had was for deer hunting. The gun was to get him outside, which the officer in the video approves of. Get him away from the computers, that's good. But Colin tells the officers, if you think this is him, tell me, because those guns are gone today. And that is not what he's told. It shows that Colin, had he known, would have removed those guns. But he didn't. Let's talk about what Colin actually did, because this case is being framed as if Colin Gray didn't do anything. The evidence will show the opposite. You will hear that when the family transitioned schools, it was Colin Gray who registered Colt. You will hear that Colin Gray worked full-time, was raising 3 kids on his own due to the kids' mother's addiction problems, due to DFAC saying that she was not allowed to have unsupervised contact with him, due to the courts in Barrow County saying she was not even allowed in the same county where these kids lived. Colin was doing everything. Colin is the one that filled out the counseling referral forms. Colin is the one that communicated with the school counselor. Colin's the one who discussed the evaluation. Colin was the one who was coordinating mental health services through the school. Colin is the one that filled out the paperwork to get the assessment done on September the 5th. You'll hear that the school had arranged, and it had already been taken care of, that Colin had completed everything he needed to for the assessment. You're going to hear from the grandmother who says that they wanted to take him to Advantage Behavioral in Athens, that it was urgent. This comes out after the shooting. The grandmother will also tell you she had absolutely no idea that Colt had any interest in Nicholas Cruz or school shootings in general until after the shooting happened and they were making the 4.5-hour trip from Fitzgerald, her and her daughter Marcy, at which point Marcy said, well, Colt does like this school shooter named Nicholas Cruz. That's the first time that you hear Debbie learns any of that. You're going to see text messages from Debbie in August and September of 2024 when she says that they were so strongly trying to get him into a facility. What you're not going to see in those text messages is any urgency on Debbie's part. You're not going to see anything from Debbie saying, get the guns out of the house. You're not going to say anything from Debbie saying, I'm worried about Colt. We need to get him there today. Nothing. They don't talk about it at all. Debbie doesn't mention it one bit. Now, she mentions it in hindsight after the fact, and Marcy does the same thing. Who is Colin Gray? He's a working father raising 3 kids by himself. He had responsibilities. He had a job. He had a family to keep afloat. He had 2 other kids besides Colt. He was involved. You'll see his text messages to his children. You'll see his text messages to Colt. This is not a parent who's turning his back on what's going on right in front of him. Let's talk about what you're not going to hear. Because sometimes what you don't hear in a case like this is just important as what you do. Sometimes the absence of evidence tells you more than the evidence itself. You will not hear a text message where Colt says to his dad, I'm going to shoot a school. I'm bringing a gun tomorrow. I have a plan. I'm going to hurt someone. You won't see a single message like that. You will not hear that Colt ever told his father about the notes on his iPhone. You will not hear that Colt ever showed his father a plan. You will not hear that Colt told his father he was accelerating the plan. You will not hear that anyone called Colin Gray and said, your son is about to commit a shooting. You will not hear that law enforcement told him, your son made a credible threat. You will not hear a school official warn him his mental health treatment is imminent. He needs to see someone today. You will not hear anyone from DFACS told him, we have serious concerns that he's violent, that he's going to hurt someone else. You will not hear anyone say that they contacted the police on September 3rd and said there's a school shooting about to happen. You will not hear that Colin Gray encouraged violence. You will not hear that he glorified violence. You will not hear that he dismissed a specific credible threat. In fact, you'll hear something entirely different. You'll hear that Colt suffered from anxiety. You'll hear that Colt suffered from depression. You'll hear about his panic attacks. You'll hear that he didn't like going to school. These are serious issues, but these are not the same as homicidal ideations. These are not the same as suicidal ideations. These are not the same thing as proof of a probable school shooting. The state will ask you to connect dots after the fact using hindsight. Dots that became visible only after the shooting itself. But what you will not hear is evidence that at the time, Colin had sufficient warning that this outcome was probable. Not imaginable, not possible, but probable. That Colin knew that his son would harm someone else. You'll hear testimony from Colt Gray's counselor. And that's important because it gives you a professional's perspective on what was going on with Colt in the weeks leading up to the shooting. You will hear that Colt presented as a student suffering from anxiety and emotional instability, panic symptoms, an inability to function in class. And you'll hear something very important. You will hear that even this school counselor, a professional trained, did not perceive Colt as a threat. She described him as nice, respectful. That matters, because if a trained counselor did not perceive the imminent violence, then it's unreasonable to claim that the father should have seen it himself. You'll also hear testimony from her about how the father did in fact take steps to get him mental health treatment. The father was in communication with the counselor. The father submitted the paperwork. The father completed the referral, and the father was pursuing intervention. You'll hear the therapist was essentially scheduled to meet with Colt the very next day. The father was not ignoring the problem. Colin Gray was acting. They want you to hold him responsible because they don't think he was acting fast enough. You'll hear from his daughter, Colt's sister, Jenny Gray. Her testimony will corroborate the concealment that Colt was perpetrating on his family, on his dad. She'll testify that Colt was secretive, that he was constantly deleting and opening new accounts on Discord to avoid detection, that he was using usernames that were combinations of alphanumeric combinations. You'll find that he would not discuss, based on the statement that Jenny gave on September 4th of 2024, that he would not discuss school shootings or school shooters in front of his father. You will hear on the morning of the shooting, Colin Gray had already left home. You will hear that Colt, when he did discuss school shooters with Jenny, made her promise not to tell his dad. You'll hear that that morning on September the 4th, Colin Gray got up and took his youngest son, Coley Jr., to school, that he left before Jenny and Colt did to catch the bus. You will hear that Colt had to go and find the gun because it wasn't in his room, that he had to find the ammunition that wasn't in his room, and that he had to put them in his backpack, and that he had to conceal the rifle that stuck out of his backpack 18 to 24 inches with a poster board. And he put a hat on top of it. It proves concealment, it proves independent action, And that matters because it's consistent with what Colt had done the whole time, which was conceal this plan from his father. Remember, the state says that he knew. They said that he knew this was going to happen. That he knew, not that it was possible, that he knew Colt was going to go and harm someone else. But you can't consciously disregard a risk that you're not aware of. And you can't say something is probable when it's being hidden from you. You're going to see text message. They've already discussed some of the messages. We're going to discuss some of the other ones. And we're going to talk about why they matter. There are hundreds of text messages between Colin Gray and his son. These texts matter because they show the reality in real time of what was happening and what Colin would have thought and what Colin would have known at that time. Not now, but at that time. They also show what Colt chose not to disclose. You'll see a father checking on his son on a daily basis, checking on school attendance. Did you make it to school? How's your day going? How was your day? What are you doing after class? You'll see encouragement. I'm proud of you. I love you. You're a good young man. This is not an absent father. This is not a father not paying attention to his child. You'll see daily involvement. You'll see a father trying to keep a teenager engaged and connected to school. You'll see a father trying to build the confidence and self-esteem of his son. You will see this all in the text messages. You'll see their discussions about mental health, about depression, which is not homicidal ideation, about anxiety, which is not homicidal ideation, about anxiety, panic attacks, which are not homicidal ideation. You'll see a father trying to stabilize a situation at home. You will not see threats to harm other folks. You will not see threats to harm other people. You will not see, I'm going to shoot up the school, I'm bringing a gun, I have a plan, I'm going to harm someone. There needs to be proof that Colin Gray knew what Colt was going to do and knew that Colt was going to harm someone. The text messages show something else as well. They show that Colt was capable of living a double life. He could text his father, love you, and have a good day, while simultaneously writing plans on his phone about shooting up the school. He could talk about liking school. School was good. The kids here are mature, referring to the Appalachia High School. They gave me a nickname. The teacher said I'm the tech guy. And you'll see Colin respond happily that his son seems to be finding his way for the first time in a while in school. He could talk, Colt, about school being good, about having a good day, and what they're going to have for dinner, while also planning on how to sneak a rifle into the school. That's not something a father can foresee. He asked about ammunition. You'll hear evidence that they went to the gun range. You'll hear evidence that he taught his son safety. You will not hear evidence that Colt requested ammunition because he was getting ready to do a school shooting. That conversation is not a threat. There's no mention of harming anyone else. There's no talk of a timeline. The state's going to ask you to interpret these ordinary messages with extraordinary hindsight. But the law does not allow hindsight convictions. Your task was determining what Colin Gray knew in the months leading up to the shooting. It requires proof of what he specifically knew at that time. You'll hear from the mother, Marcy Gray. She'll try to convince you that she warned everyone and no one listened. The evidence will show that she did not share the most important information she knew about Colt with Colin. You've already heard their relationship was not smooth. You heard that DFACS took the kids from her. You'll hear that they were separated. You'll hear that the kids had to come up here per the DFACS order. You'll hear that she drove up here after telling her mother she was going to murder Colin, came up here, keyed his cars, got arrested, and then was told by the judge, you can't come back to Barrow County. You'll see evidence in text messages between Colt and his mom. You will see in these text messages Colt telling his mom prior to the shooting that he had created a Securus online profile that he was using by making up a fake age to try and get in contact with Nicholas Cruz in prison down in Florida. He will text her that he had emailed Nicholas Cruz a couple times, and he'd even put money on his commissary. Marcy's response is to ask him where he got the money. And he tells Marcy in a text message, I told Dad it was to buy a video game on Steam. To which Marcy responds with a laughing out loud emoji. Marcy knew that he had this interest in Nicholas Cruz, but she did not share it with Colin. Immediately after this conversation, you will not see a text message from Marcy to Colin say, hey, did you know he's been emailing a mass murderer in Florida? Did you know that he put money on this mass murderer's commissary account that he told you was for a video game? She doesn't share any of that with Colin. She keeps that to herself.
The defense team continuing opening statements in the Colin Gray trial as tears stream down his cheeks as he listens to his team lay out the case. Prosecutors began the morning with a 50-minute opening statement to the jury. This could be a trial that lasts 2, potentially 3 weeks, and we will have it all for you here on 11Alive Plus. In fact, if you want to continue watching those opening statements, just scroll down and then over right now to our alternate streaming channel. We'll have much more there. We also have much more coming up here on 11Alive Plus at midday, just about 2 minutes away. You can catch more of the day's headlines, a recap of what happened there in opening statements, and also we are on Verdict Watch out in Athens, Georgia, and the Tara Baker case. We'll see you in just a couple minutes for 11Alive Midday.
First on Midday, the long-awaited trial against the father of the accused Appalachia High School shooter finally underway. What to expect in opening statements. Plus, we are beginning the first full week of a partial government shutdown, and there is still no deal in sight. And they're chasing dreams, finding peace, and lifting each other up. While the best figure skaters compete on the world stage, we speak with some ice skaters right here in the Metro who say that the ice is more than just a rink. Hi, thank you so much for joining us here at Midday at 11 on 11Alive Plus. I'm Faith Jesse. We start with this. Opening statements are underway in the trial of Colin Gray. He's the father of the accused Appalachia High School shooter, Colt Gray. 11Alive Stephanie Chaynock is at the Barrow County Courthouse with a look at this high-profile case that's garnering national attention.
Absolutely, and court was a little delayed this morning by a few minutes before jurors arrived here at 9:15 this morning. Opening statements expected today, and so much attention on this case that the judge chose to select jurors from a different county, Hall County, and have them brought here to Barrow County to sit in on this trial. A trial that is expected to take weeks. This is inside the courtroom this morning. Now, no cameras were allowed inside jury selection last week, but we know Colin Gray was present along with his lawyers as well as prosecutors, the same as today. Now, the indictment charges Gray with 29 counts, including second-degree murder, alleging he knowingly allowed his son, Colt Gray, who was 14 years old at the time, access to a gun despite warnings that the teen posed a danger. The teen is accused of opening fire inside Appalachia High School in 2024, killing 2 teachers and 2 students. And this trial is really one of the first here in the state of Georgia where we are witnessing and watching a case where a parent is facing multiple charges in connection to the action of their child. We're going to be watching this closely. We do have a crew inside that will be bringing the latest developments. In Barrow County, I'm Stephanie Chaynock, 11Alive News.
And we are streaming the entire trial right now on 11Alive Plus. You can download the app and you can stream for free. Hey, let's get a check of your 11Alive weather impact forecast after a bit of a rainy weekend. The sun is back out. Meteorologist Chesley McNeil joining us. And your face is also full of sunshine, Chesley.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, we had some rain, much needed rainfall yesterday. Got up close to an inch at the airport officially, so drop in the bucket for us as far as our drought goes. But we love the sunshine, of course, and we got it out for this afternoon. We had some fog in this particular area. In fact, we were showing you this camera earlier this morning where we couldn't even see the buildings in the background or even in the foreground there. But now, look at that. The fog is lifted. We've got plenty of sunshine on the outside. There's not a cloud in the sky. And so it's going to be a gorgeous afternoon for us, not only in the Athens area, but also around the state. It's going to be very, very nice. The clouds that we had earlier this morning have gotten out of the way. And so we're sitting pretty, folks. Temperature started out in the 40s in a lot of spots. You had a few 50s in there, and now everyone in the 50s, even 60 degrees over toward Georgia's Rome. You're looking at 55 in Athens, 59, close to 60 in Edenton, also over toward LaGrange. Atlanta right now close to 60 as well with Marietta. We're looking at temperatures heating up this afternoon, getting up to 67 for an afternoon high temperature, about a good 10 degrees above where we should be for this time of year. We'll drop back down to 60 by 7 o'clock under fair skies. We'll see those temperatures falling back down into the 40s for overnight lows. And then we're going to heat it up even more. In fact, I think 67 will be the coolest day that we'll have this week. 70s are coming our way. I'll let you know when, and the full forecast straight ahead. Faith, back to you.
We look forward to that. Thank you so much. Well, now to this. Happening today, the jury will begin deliberations in the trial of Edric Faust. He's accused of the 2001 murder of UGA law student Tara Baker. And Dan Kennedy, he's been following this case for us, joining us from the streaming center. Hey, bringing us all of the updates on 11Alive Plus. Good morning, Dan. What do we know about where this case is today?
Hey, Faith, good morning. I can tell you the jury, they are behind closed doors as we speak, and they are deliberating in this case. They heard closing arguments on Friday night. It lasted well into the evening. About 7 o'clock is when they received their instructions from the judge. They spent the weekend at home, then arrived back at the courthouse this morning, and now they are deliberating. This cold case murder trial lasted 2 weeks. Prosecutors say evidence shows Edric Faust sexually assaulted, stabbed, and strangled Tara Baker before setting her bed on fire. The defense poked holes in the investigation, including pointing fingers at Baker's then boyfriend as a potential suspect. The defense rested its case Friday without calling any witnesses. Faith, it has been 25 years since Baker was murdered. Now it'll be up to a jury of 12 to decide whether this is the killer.
Yeah, and Dan, could you remind us how an arrest was eventually made in this case? We're talking about 20 years.
Right, yeah. I mean, this was a cold case, more than 2 decades here. They had a DNA kit tested at the time, but didn't come back with anything. And then it was resubmitted in 2023, and that's when it came back with a match for Faust. Prosecutors say the odds that DNA belongs to somebody else, 1 in 800 quadrillion. Meanwhile, Faust maintains his innocence, Faith.
Yeah, he is maintaining his innocence. That DNA, that's going to be really interesting to see how the jury decides that. Dan, thank you so much. Well, new this midday, Atlanta police, they're investigating a shooting at a Southwest Atlanta apartment. We know that it happened Saturday night on Peyton Place, and police found a man shot in the chest. They rushed him to Grady Hospital. Investigators say he showed up at the apartment demanding to see his girlfriend. Well, when she refused, police say he wouldn't leave, and a teenage family member shot him. 17-year-old Kez Crenshaw is now charged with aggravated assault and several firearm offenses. Police say the investigation remains ongoing. Also new today, we now know the name of the person struck and killed by a car on Campbellton Road. Authorities identified him as 26-year-old Michael Stringfellow. Police say last Thursday, Stringfellow, he was seen running in and out of traffic, even sitting on the road at one point before he was hit by a car. The driver stayed at that scene and is cooperating. That investigation is ongoing. And this midday, the search continues for the shooter who killed a local postal worker. Well, the family says someone shot and killed 31-year-old DeQuavius Graves while he was on the job last Thursday in DeKalb County. 11Alive's Gilad Malamed had the chance to speak with Graves' mother over the weekend, who's now pleading for that shooter to come forward.
Baby boy, if you're listening to your mama.
Shannon Graves now looks up to heaven.
Know that we all love you and miss you so much.
To talk to her son.
My sunshine. He always brighten the day.
She describes her son, 31-year-old DeQuavius Graves, as a mama's boy who always knew how to make her laugh. But police say Thursday night he was shot and killed in DeKalb County, ending his life in an instant.
I was like, this is not real. I kept telling them, this is a dream. Y'all telling me my child is dead? No way. There's no way.
Graves says her son was shot while working as a postal worker, completing a route on Oxford Lane. He's worked for USPS for the last 3 years.
From my understanding, he made everybody smile at the job and on his route, because every time on his route, they would give him some snacks, or like when it's hot, they would give him water. So he loved it.
Graves was passionate about producing music, performing with his cousin Nosakere Andrews.
He's always allowed me to physically and figuratively get on top of his shoulders.
Andrews says his cousin spent years helping him become a musician.
I wouldn't be where I am in life as a producer, as an artist, or even as a person without my cousin. Anything that I needed him to do for me, he would do it. He was just a kind-hearted, selfless, hard-working person.
Now the family is demanding answers, desperate to know why his life was cut short.
Why? Why would somebody want to do that?
This was a very cowardly move, and I want you to please come forward and give yourself up.
Gilad Malamed, 11Alive News.
Yeah, we're working more to learn about what led to the shooting. DeKalb Police and the United States Postal Inspection Service, they are investigating here. A spokesperson for USPS tells us that it will be providing counseling services to employees at that West Branch post office. Well, right now, police are searching for the gunman involved in a deadly shooting at a home in Southwest Atlanta. We know that this shooting had happened on Coleman Street in the Pittsburgh neighborhood around 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. One man was killed, but his name has not yet been released. 22-year-old Jaron Jordan facing several charges after police say he was shot while impersonating a police officer. Well, he's accused of going to an apartment on James Jackson Parkway, trying to kick in the door. The person inside fired, hitting Jordan. Georgia's own credit union wishing everyone a happy President's Day today with their iconic Midtown sign. If you drive down Midtown, you might see that. That mural shows 3 faces of Jimmy Carter, reminding us that while the only president from Georgia may be gone, he is never forgotten here in the Peach State. Hey, straight ahead, as the shutdown drags on, the nation's airports are bracing for possible travel delays. We have the latest from Washington, plus a new study revealing some alarming results when it comes to contaminants in dog food, the products pet owners should avoid, and the safer alternatives. We'll be right back. Happening right now, early voting underway for residents in District 14. This is a special election to fill a seat held by former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. You'll remember Greene resigned abruptly last year after falling out with President Trump. Her last day in office was January 5th. Well, the district in Northwest Georgia, that covers 9 counties plus a portion of Cobb County, and it's considered to be a Republican stronghold. Election day will take place on March 10th, but there are 21 candidates running for this U.S. House seat, so this election will likely go to a runoff that will be held on April 7th. 16 of these candidates are Republican, and they've been appearing at GOP forums in the community to hear directly from voters. Earlier this month, the president endorsed candidate Clay Fuller. He's a former district attorney from Northwest Georgia. Well, this week we are starting the first full week of a partial government shutdown. And this comes as the nation's airports are bracing for travel delays if this one drags on like we saw last go round. NBC's senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez, he has more.
This morning, the reality of another partial government shutdown is settling in after the Department of Homeland Security ran out of funding over the weekend with no deal on reforms to immigration enforcement operations.
We need change that is dramatic, that is bold, that is meaningful.
We have to protect law enforcement.
While negotiators struggle for common ground, ICE and Border Patrol at the center of the dispute are still funded through what President Trump called the Big Beautiful Bill, while critical workers at FEMA, the Coast Guard, and TSA are once again working without pay.
People's lives and livelihoods are being played with here.
Union leader Andrew Cardosa says many TSA agents are still recovering from the last shutdown in the fall that snarled air travel for weeks. He says they can't afford another extended stretch without pay.
For me, eventually, it's going to come down to, do I put gas in the car to go to work for free, or do I put food on the table with that money for my kid?
Democrats argue they have to stand firm in the wake of the shooting deaths of 2 American citizens by federal officers. They're demanding changes, including a uniform code of conduct for ICE and Border Patrol, judicial warrants before immigration arrests, and no masks on officers.
No police department in America doesn't identify themselves.
What are you going to do, expose their faces so you can intimidate their families? What we want is ICE to be able to do their job.
Congress is out until next week, but could come back to vote if there's a deal. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Republicans now accusing Democrats of political theater in the lead up of President Trump's State of the Union address. He's set to give that next week. Democratic leaders are rejecting that, saying that they hope to reach a deal before then. Well, some lawmakers here in Georgia, they are now taking action to try and keep ICE detention centers out of metro Atlanta communities. Well, yesterday, Democratic State Senator Jaha Howard and South Fulton City Councilwoman Helen Zenobia Willis, they joined each other for a news conference where they announced plans to introduce legislation aimed at stopping the construction of large-scale ICE detention facilities.
Georgia taxpayers should not subsidize or facilitate large-scale federal detention expansion without clear public consent or accountability.
Fulton's future should be defined by opportunity and unity, not by industrial-scale detention facilities, imposed without the voice of the people. Our community is not a warehouse. It is our home, and I will always fight to protect such.
Of course, some Republicans on the opposite end of that saying that these facilities are needed and they fully support ICE. But the push for this legislation, it follows federal plans to build these ICE facilities in Walton and Hall counties in the cities of Social Circle and Oakwood. And Social Circle records show that ICE now owns this large warehouse property. Officials say that they plan to house 10,000 detainees. That's a number double the town's population. And a smaller processing center that's supposed to hold about 1,500 at a time is expected to be up and running in Oakwood in the coming months. Last week, U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock, he filed an amendment on Friday to the DHS funding bill that would block the purchase of the properties in Social Circle and Oakwood, saying in part the people of Georgia want secure borders. They do not want massive immigration detention centers in their backyards.
We are looking at a beautiful day, folks. Take a look outside right now. This is a Midtown camera. You can see we have nothing but sun rays coming down from the skies today. Had clouds earlier, but those clouds have gotten out of the way. We're sitting pretty for the rest of the afternoon, folks. It's going to be very, very nice out there. In fact, we're going to hold on to crystal clear skies right on through the night and into tomorrow morning before more clouds move back into the area by late Tuesday afternoon. Temperatures are in the 50s, close to the 60-degree mark. In fact, you're already there in Georgia's Rome. You're looking at 59 degrees in LaGrange, down toward Edenton, over into Atlanta, Marietta, the same, 55. Pair of Nichols over to Athens, where we had that fog earlier this morning, and now that's begun to lift off. Still have a little bit of fog here, as you can see by the blue in there. Stevens County, got Banks County in there. A little bit of fog, but that will burn off, of course, and all of us will be sitting pretty as far as the skies go. Looking at temperatures warming up into the upper 60s for highs for today. Even maybe some 70s, maybe. Georgia's Rome, 73. Maybe could get that high. Certainly that warmer air is coming our way. Notice the clouds down into the southern portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and into our state as well. That is fading away as high pressure continues to slide a little bit further over toward the east. Now we have an easterly flow coming into the area. Our winds will be out of the east at about, I'd say 6, 7, 8 miles per hour or less for today. High pressure really dominating our skies. They had that front that pushed through, and that's well off to the east of us now. Took the rain away with it. It was really rainy yesterday. We don't have to worry about that. At least for the next couple of days, we don't have to worry about any rain. But I do think the clouds will start to move back in as we start to get some of that moisture back over our area. You're looking at mild air in place for this afternoon, again with temperatures heating up into the upper 60s. We'll do it again for tomorrow, about the same. You see that warm air trying to make its way over here? I don't think it'll make it all the way in. When I say warmer air, I mean temperatures will be in the 80s back off to the west of us over into Dallas, New Orleans. They'll see those 80s. We'll only see the 70s around by the time we get to Wednesday. Thursday, I think we'll hold on to it. In fact, even warmer. And Friday as well with that southwesterly flow that's going to be coming in. But with this front making its way down toward us, we'll see some cooler air as we head toward the latter half of the weekend going into the beginning of next week. We'll also bring in a chance for showers as we head toward the weekend as well. Here's how it all plays out. Forecast track model. You can follow along with me with the time right there at the top of the screen. Again, showing that easterly flow for this afternoon with mostly sunny skies. Looks gorgeous on the outside. Take advantage of it while you can, folks. Tomorrow we'll get another one, but we'll start off with the sunshine. After about 2, 3 o'clock is when we'll start to see some of these clouds begin to move in. Partly sunny skies for the latter half of the afternoon. Even thicker clouds will be coming in as we head into the evening. That's going to be around for Wednesday as well. And pretty much all day you got a mix of sun and clouds. Models trying to ring out a shower or two. There's some hints that there could be some around, but right now it's a less than a 10% chance. And so I'm going to say we're not going to see anything at all. We'll do the same as we head into Thursday. Mostly cloudy skies, but with that southerly flow. And you can see those arrows there moving from the south to the north. That southerly push will help to get those temperatures up there just a little bit, especially with the clouds will hang on to the heat as well. 68 degrees will be the high temperature on Tuesday. By Wednesday, we're right near 70 degrees, 75 by Thursday, 77 degrees by Friday. We're going to pay for it with a chance for a few scattered showers. I think that'll come late afternoon into the evening. Going into Saturday, still wet, 40% chance. Of course, we'll fine tune this as the system gets a little closer to the area, and then we'll cool it back down for the latter half of the weekend going into next week with temperatures a little bit closer to where we should be for this time of year. Faith?
Hey, we look forward to it. I'm not mad at these temperatures at all, Chesley, at all. Hey, the world will be watching Georgia native Alana Myers-Taylor today as she chases gold in the final 2 mono-bob events at the Winter Olympics. She's coming into the race in second place behind the German leader by just 0.2 of a second, guys. That's how close they are. The first run, that's at 1 p.m. and the final is at 3:05. We are certainly rooting for Miss Taylor. Well, from Olympic ice to movie legend, Olympians will race today on the same track that inspired a James Bond classic. And 11Alive Cheryl Preheim is taking us back to the 1956 Winter Olympics and how it helped to shape this iconic film.
It's a big week for Atlanta's Olympic icon, Alana Myers-Taylor. She's here at her 5th Olympics, and she will race in Cortina, a mountain town that hosted the Olympics back in 1956. And that's when it caught the eye of James Bond movie producers.
Cortina hosted the 1956 Winter Olympics, but most importantly to James Bond fans, it played a big role in the 1980s Bond film For Your Eyes Only.
Exactly, in 1983, I believe, For Your Eyes Only, James Bond.
The Olympic curling venue in Cortina was also the opening ceremony stadium and hockey venue for the 1956 games. In 1980, it was also the location for several scenes with James Bond, including one where Bond fights evil hockey players.
Two bad guys try to punch and fight with Mr. Bond.
Today, there's a Hall of Fame wall with skaters, athletes, and Roger Moore. Other places around Cortina were featured, from the Olympic ski jump, the ski slopes of Cortina, and the 1956 Olympic bobsled track. The once lavish Miramonte Hotel, now closed, but in the 80s, it was featured in the film. Bond drove his Lotus up to the hotel with skis on the back.
The scenes inside the rooms with the Bond girl, let's say, it's great. It's a great movie.
Now with another Winter Olympics in Cortina, Giacomo would love to see Cortina be part of the next Bond film.
The hotel in that old film is still standing. Reporting at the Winter Games, Cheryl Preheim, 11Alive News.
So much history, so much fun. We can't wait to see more of the Olympics. But first, coming up here, some popular dog foods may contain alarming levels of lead and mercury. What pet owners need to know before filling that bowl. Hey, pet owners, listen up. A new study finds some popular dog foods may contain alarming levels of lead, mercury, and other contaminants. So what does that mean for your four-legged family members? NBC's George Solis, he's taking a closer look.
Everyone's talking about what ultra-processed foods does to our health.
My message is clear: eat real food.
But what about our four-legged friends? A new study into the multi-billion-dollar dog food industry found what the group says is high levels of contaminants like arsenic, cadmium, mercury, and lead in your pet's dry food. The findings come from Colorado-based nonprofit Clean Label Project, which tests and certifies consumer products. They found dry food has the highest level of contaminants, and a close second, air and freeze-dried. Best option, fresh and frozen, human-grade stuff that you can eat yourself. The report looked at 79 of the top-selling dog foods, but didn't call out specific brands.
I don't think anyone, any group, any company sets out to contaminate food. I think they love their dogs as much as I love my dog who's sitting right next to me. I think it just needs to have more attention brought to it.
The study finds things like meat byproducts, added vitamin and mineral premix, and seafood and plant-based carbs were likely contributors. And while those numbers sound alarming, traces of these contaminants have been found in our food supply for decades. The 1950s saw a major rise in the industrialization of our food, a boom in factory farming, and the invention of quick, cheap meals like TV dinners, leading to what we see now with ultra-processed foods for us and for our dogs.
We try and be prescriptive and not cause total panic, but say, hey, here are the options. It's
The best of the bunch, fresh and frozen dog food can run you hundreds of dollars a month. So is it worth it? The answer is complicated.
Was there a correlation to price point?
as much as we wish we could deliver it all on a silver platter, that it's got the most nutritious ingredients with the lowest contaminants at the best price point, we just look at the data and we say, here's what we tested. This is what we found, to bring attention to it. And, ideally, it would all align, but that's not necessarily the case.
But there is concern that eating these contaminants could do real harm.
These dogs are having the same food almost every day for their entire lives. We need more studies to say, okay, the dogs that are getting sick, is diet playing a role?
We've reached out to the FDA for comment and have yet to hear back.
That's the beauty of independent consumer testing, is that you can say, oh, all right, I don't need the government to tell me how to get something better.
Hamilton says an educated and empowered consumer is a pet's best friend until they get federal regulations to sink their teeth into.
We may have started out with clouds, but the sunshine is out in abundance for this afternoon. It's going to help to warm us up as well. How long will it stick around? I'll let you know in the full forecast straight ahead.
Welcome back to 11Alive Midday. Testimony now underway in the trial of Colin Gray. He is the father of the accused Appalachia High School shooter, Colt Gray. Opening statements wrapped up just a few minutes ago. Prosecutors laid out a detailed timeline of what happened the morning of September 4th, 2024. While defense argued Colin Gray should not be held responsible. We're streaming the entire trial right now on 11Alive Plus. You can download our app and you can stream for free.
All right, we're looking at fair skies on the outside. Looks gorgeous. This is the sun shining down on the clover leaf. As you can see, shining down on the city, everywhere, really. No leaves on the trees. That's something to pay attention to as we get closer to spring. Of course, that will be the thing we have to deal with, pollen, but I'm speaking too early for that, right? You're looking at temperatures on the mild side as we head into the afternoon. Plenty of sunshine around. You see just a few clouds overhead right now up here north of Athens right now. We can see just a few clouds there. We had some fog in this area early on. Now that fog is starting to lift. You have some that's headed right into parts of Stevens County into South Carolina, but that will burn off. You can see where it's a little bit cooler there, where temperatures are still in the 40s, but 50s everywhere else you look. all our readings at least. Close to 60 now in Atlanta and Marietta, both at 59 degrees. You're at 61 in Edenton. Rome holding together at 60 as well, 61 over toward LaGrange. And we'll all heat into the 60s as we head into the afternoon, looking at 67 for your afternoon high temperature today. Winds will be light out of the east at about 7-8 miles per hour. Going to drop back down to 60 degrees by 7 o'clock tonight, going down to the 40s for overnight lows. So it'll be a bit of a cool start for us tomorrow morning. But with that sunshine, I think temperatures will be warmer. In fact, this 67-degree high temperature today should be the coolest of the week. I think temperatures will be warming up as we go. We're going to hit the 70s this week. In fact, upper 70s coming our way. I'll tell you exactly when in the full forecast straight ahead. Faith, back to you.
All right, Chesley, we look forward to it. Well, we are now into week 3 of the search for Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, missing since the early morning hours of February 1st. NBC's Liz Kreutz is in Tucson reporting.
This morning, the Guthrie family refusing to give up hope with that new plea from Savannah, now over 2 weeks into the search for their missing mom, Nancy. And as the investigation continues, we're learning more about the gloves found in the area. According to the FBI, teams have recovered 16 gloves, many the FBI believes left behind by searchers. But according to a person familiar with the matter, one of them, found about 2 miles from her house, is consistent with the type of glove the suspect was wearing in the doorbell surveillance video. The FBI says the DNA on that glove appears to belong to an unknown male. According to a federal law enforcement source with knowledge of the investigation, investigators are not categorizing the case as any particular type of crime at this stage, adding that a burglary-robbery scenario is just one of the myriad theories being considered. After that scenario circulated over the weekend, the sheriff telling NBC affiliate KVOA, "I have no idea where that came from." Authorities going through the tips pouring in.
Are you close to finding this person?
We think we're getting there. We think we're getting closer.
Yet on Friday, another letdown after law enforcement, including SWAT teams, swarmed a home a mile from Nancy's property. You can hear authorities here yelling at people inside as they served a search warrant. They later conducted a traffic stop of this Range Rover. Ultimately, no arrests were made. 2 law enforcement sources tell NBC News investigators are leaning away from the person who owns that home, along with the delivery driver they detained last week in Rio Rico. Those same officials say investigators are also leaning away from any of Nancy's relatives as potential suspects, now stressing that surveillance video footage could be key. Investigators working with private companies, including Google, to uncover more video.
You're working with the tech companies still?
And yeah, we've asked them, and they're working as best they can.
Well, back here at home this midday, the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office has identified a man who was shot and killed outside of an old dental office. Officials say 37-year-old Montario Sperling was killed Saturday afternoon at an office building on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive near the Cascade skating rink. The office still contains some dental supplies, but that business is no longer operational. 73-year-old David Mays, he is charged with murder in Sperling's death. According to investigators, Mays said that he saw someone inside the business on surveillance video, then went to check it out and claimed there was an exchange of gunfire. However, police say Sperling was not armed at the time of the shooting. Now to a few more headlines we are following for you. Right now, there is still no date set for the testimony of former Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. He did not show up for a hearing on Friday for a state Senate committee investigating misconduct and the now dismissed election interference case. Cobb County is launching the state's first drive-through court service in Marietta. So the Clerk's Office Express, that opens next Monday. That will allow people to pay traffic tickets and other fees that don't require a court appearance. Hey, let's check back in with the Winter Olympics. Our Cheryl Preheim in Italy, enjoying the sights and the Italian culture in between catching up with the athletes, of course. And she posted this video about one of her recent adventures, something we can all relate to.
When in Italy, you must eat pizza. And since we're in the land of pizza, we wanted to try some authentic pizza. So come inside this really cool place. I'll show you where it's really unique styles of pizza. So we ordered the margarita pizza. It was absolutely delicious, simple, just fresh basil and mozzarella and the best crust I've ever had. This is a recommendation of our waiter. He said the best pizza on the menu is roast beef with arugula and some cheese on the top with some balsamic. Oh, there's tuna on it too. And in Italy,
Very different and very good. Maybe try a little roast beef pizza at your house.
Okay, Cheryl, I believe you, girl. Tuna on the pizza. I don't know about all that, but maybe, don't knock it till you try it. Well, they shine and dazzle on ice and are inspired by Olympians going for gold, but ice skaters in Metro Atlanta also inspire each other. 11Alive's Joe Ripley shares how these local skaters are finding community no matter how old they are.
It was a childhood dream of mine.
Now nearing 60, Mary Morelli is satisfying her inner child. Her dream taking flight after life dealt her a nightmare.
My husband passed away in 2020 very suddenly, and for 3.5 years I didn't do anything. And then I decided I wanted to basically try something I haven't tried before.
Morelli took up ice skating 3 years ago, finding her footing and gliding her way to peace.
My favorite part about skating, performing, and the outfits.
Artistry drew Leandro Gallardo to the ice. He used to take lessons once a week. Now he skates 7 days a week.
It looks like you could never do it, but you actually can. Everybody can. Just put dedication and set the fears aside. And everybody is so supportive that you're going to be supported and encouraged to everything you do.
The Ice Forum in Duluth brings these skaters together. Chelsea Jackson says the community they built includes people of all different ages and all walks of life.
I've had friends fall, I've fallen when I've skated. We all lift each other up. So for me, those connections have been really meaningful and have been the difference between me staying or just turning away when it gets really hard.
Going through challenges together on the ice and in life, despite limits on the body, sparks limitless inspiration.
Wherever it takes you, it will take you somewhere unbelievable.
The sport gives skaters like Mary Morelli her joy and peace of mind.
If there's something out there you want to try, go try it.
Joe Ripley, 11Alive News.
Hey, well, the figure skating pairs finals, those start today at 2 p.m. You can catch up on all stories coming out of Milan Cortina right here on 11Alive Plus and 11alive.com. Hey, coming up here, a new study finds when teens get enough sleep, they're actually more active. Why experts say rest is the key to get kids moving. Plus, forever chemicals have been detected in drinking water across the country, and many families may not realize how widespread this problem is. We go one-on-one with an expert for a breakdown of what this means for your health. Hey, sleep and exercise are both key to keeping you healthy, and for teens, both of those can help develop the brain and mental health in a much better way. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has a look at some new research about how adequate sleep can help teens move more.
It's a rising problem. Around 77% of high schoolers reported insufficient sleep on a CDC survey. While sleep is an important pillar of health and well-being, a new study finds it's also closely connected to another critical component: exercise.
There's a common fear that if teens sleep more, there will be less time for them to be active, and our results really suggest the opposite.
Kayla Johnson with the University of Minnesota School of Public Health is lead author of the research, which found that sleep is the foundation of physical activity, and if a teen can get sufficient sleep, it will likely help them to move more.
The kids that are sleeping more are also the kids that are spending less time sitting around on the couch.
8 to 10 hours of sleep each day is recommended for teens ages 13 to 18. To help them get adequate sleep, Johnson says we need to stop fighting teen body clocks.
Well, a lot of parents and teens don't realize that there is a biological shift that occurs in the early teen years, which delay the internal signals that make you tired. And this makes going to bed before 10 or 11 p.m. extremely difficult for teens.
Johnson says teens who are more in line with their biological clock and go to sleep a little later are also the ones who move more throughout the day. She says changes need to be made at school and home to support sufficient sleep.
Making sure that everyone knows how much sleep they actually need and supporting them in having a regular sleep schedule.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
All right, we do have an important recall alert for those who take diet supplements. Ambrosia Brands recalling some of its Rosabella moringa capsules, a product they're recalling this due to possible salmonella contamination. That product was sold online through the TikTok shop. So if you have this at home, listen up. To date, there have been several illnesses resulting in 3 hospitalizations due to salmonella. The company is urging customers to reach out with any questions. Do not take that if you have it. Another recall alert for you. This one involves baby food. Take a good look on your screen here. Initiative Foods recalling its Tippy Toes apple, pear, banana fruit puree due to elevated levels of patulin. That is a naturally occurring substance produced by molds that may grow in various fruits, including apples. The FDA says long-term exposure to this patulin can lead to several health issues, including nerve damage. No illnesses have been reported, but take a look there. If you have this, do not take it. The baby food has a best buy date of July 17th, 2026. It was distributed in stores in every state except Alaska. Hey, now to a live look at the world's busiest airport. Starting in May, Delta's 7 newest planes will feature an expanded Delta First cabin. That move is temporary until it can install flatbed suites instead. The planes fly from Atlanta to the West Coast. Hey, it's Girl Scout cookie season, and a 6-year-old Girl Scout in Pittsburgh has shattered a national record, selling over 75,000 boxes of cookies. 20,000 of those boxes she sold in just one day, and she did this with the help of a viral TikTok video and, of course, traditional door-to-door sales. Rachel Pierce reports.
Yep. Meet Pittsburgh's record-setting Girl Scout.
Do you want to try reading it?
Yeah. Pim Neal.
When she was 3, she saw the, booth of girls selling cookies, and like many 3-year-olds who see cool things, says, I want to do that.
She sold a record number of boxes, over 75,000, across all 50 states.
Hi, my name is Pim. Do you want to buy some Girl Scout cookies?
Part of that success is getting the word out on social media.
Our whole goal was to spread the joy that she brings. Anyone who spends any amount of time with her absolutely adores her.
Reaching millions of people.
For us, this has never happened.
Girl Scouts of Western PA say Pim is taking the tradition of selling cookies door to door to the next level.
And I think Pim is doing a really good job, encouraging sisterhood across America. She's connecting with girls that she would have never connected with otherwise. I'm excited. I get a front row seat. I can't wait to see where she grows.
Hey, it is the era of Girl Scout TikTok influencers. Chesley, I tell you what, I don't need much influence. Give me 3 boxes of Samoa's stat.
You know what I mean? I like the trefoils, but she should have a gold Girl Scout smock.
Oh, yeah.
Hall of Famer right there.
Come on now, Billboard.
Yeah, she's a Hall of Famer.
They need to put her on the box.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's get to it. We're looking at sunshine on the outside. Speaking of golden, it looks beautiful on the outside. That's the King and Queen building that you see right there, standing proud and tall in all the sunshine that we have. Crystal clear skies just about everywhere you look, folks. Not much in the way of any clouds. We started out with clouds this morning. In fact, we had the rain in the clouds yesterday. All that is gone. High pressure is building into our area, so we're sitting pretty here. You're looking at temperatures close to the 60-degree mark in a lot of spots. Covington, Atlanta, Marietta, you're all at 59 degrees. 61 in Edenton, you got 60 in George's Rome. 55 in Blairsville, where we started out on the cool side this morning. You're at 61 also over toward LaGrange. You're going to see those temperatures rise well into the 60s for this afternoon. 67 degrees, our forecast high. A lot of spots with 66 out there, some upper 60s around as well. So it will be a nice afternoon, and I do think those temperatures will be the coolest of the week. Our temperatures will be trending warmer as we head through the week. You notice a few clouds down here in the southern portions of Alabama and into Mississippi. We got a few in our state as well, just a few. They're getting out of the way. High pressure up here to the north, bringing in that easterly flow. And so our winds out of the east about 6 or 7 miles per hour for this afternoon. That's all we'll muster up. Slight breeze, that's what we'll call it at least. But the high pressure is just going to dominate our skies. Not only for today, I think we'll do it again tomorrow. On the backside of this, we'll get back into a southerly flow, which will help to bring back those clouds to the area, but not much in the way of rain. We won't see the rainfall here until we get closer to the weekend. Mild air for today is what I'm going to call it. Yep, and we're going to hold on to it for the next couple of days. You notice that warm air trying to make its way over here. When I say warm air, what I mean is temperatures in the 80s. They'll have that in Dallas and down toward New Orleans. We'll stay in the 70s, especially for your Wednesday. Southwesterly flow will stick around Wednesday, Thursday, even into Friday before the next system comes in. That's going to bring us the chance for the rain, and will help to cool our temperatures down a little bit back to where they should be, for at least closer to where we should be for this time of year by Sunday and going into next week. Here's how it all plays out. Forecast track model. You can follow along with you at the time right there at the top of the screen. Shows that easterly flow for this afternoon. Looking gorgeous with plenty of sunshine around. Clear skies will remain tonight. We'll see those temperatures drop back off into the 40s. So a bit of a cool start for us on Tuesday morning. We'll mild up nicely by the afternoon. In fact, it won't be until late afternoon. I'm thinking after 3, 4 o'clock that we'll see a few more clouds rolling into the area. Partly cloudy skies through the overnight will lead to even more clouds overnight going into Wednesday morning. We're going to start you off with that mix of sun and clouds. Hold on to that for the rest of the afternoon. Again, notice that southwest flow. So despite the cloud cover, it's going to help to heat us up close to the 70-degree mark. And we'll stay right there for Thursday, mostly cloudy skies. There are some hints, models showing that there could be some drops of rain around. It's less than a 10% chance, so I'm going to say, we don't see anything. 68 for your high temperature on Tuesday, 70 for the high by Wednesday, 75 by Thursday. We're looking at 77 degrees by Friday. We'll give it a 40% chance for this rain. Looks like it comes in late going into Saturday. Then we cool it down for Sunday back to around 60 degrees for the high. Faith?
All right, I'm not mad at it at all, Chesley. Kind of feels like spring. Hey, coming up here, what could long-term exposure to forever chemicals mean for your health? Straight ahead, we hear from a former EPA science director to get a closer look. Hey, forever chemicals have been found in drinking water across the country, and you may not realize what it means for you or your family's health. Well, this morning, our Dan Kennedy spoke to Dr. Elizabeth Betsy Sutherland from she is the former director of the Office of Science and Technology, to get a breakdown of the long-term impacts.
Dr. Sutherland, great to have you this morning. Good morning.
Well, thank you so much for having me to talk about this really important issue.
It is important. And, you know, when people hear PFAS, what should they be thinking about, and why should the average person care?
So the average person should care because millions of us are drinking these chemicals every day. In the past 3 years, EPA required all the public water utility systems in the country that serve 3,300 or more people to monitor for 29 PFAS chemicals, and they've found it in the drinking water supply of millions of people. So if you care about what you're drinking and the water you're cooking with, you really need to follow this issue.
I mean, when I'm drinking this, can I see, smell, or taste it at all? How do you know?
Completely invisible, and you really need to, if you're concerned about this, and I think you should be, you need to contact your local water utility and see if they were among the millions of samples that were taken, if they had any PFAS detected in your drinking water. If your public water supply system was too small to have to monitor, or if you're on a private well, and particularly if you're on a private well, you should get a state-certified laboratory to test your tap water to see if you have these PFAS chemicals.
Well, what happens then? I get the utility on the phone. I ask them if they've tested. They say yes or no. What do I do at that point?
So if they say yes, then I would actually consider buying a home filter to put on any faucet that you use for drinking water or for cooking purposes. You have to replace those filters on a regular basis according to the manufacturer's instructions. But I really think it's worth it if your utility confirms that you have PFAS in your drinking water. You can also rely on bottled water, but in the long term, bottled water is inconvenient and it can be much more expensive than just getting those home filters.
And how much does a home filter go for?
So there are various prices. You can go online and find a number of them, but make sure they're certified to remove PFOA and PFOS, which are the two most frequently occurring PFAS chemicals in our drinking water supply.
Dr. Sutherland, is there a specific area of Georgia that might be more susceptible to PFAS than others?
So any area in the country that has airports, because they use a PFAS firefighting foam, any area in the country that has a military base that also use that firefighting foam. Also, you want to be concerned about the carpet factories, and I know you're aware that in Decatur, Georgia, that was a real issue. That has caused long-lasting PFAS contamination in our rivers and lakes around the country, and actually in the air also.
Yeah, Dalton, Georgia, I believe, has produced 90% of the world's carpets. So that's up there in North Georgia, very close to the Tennessee border. I mean, if you live there, is there anything more you can be doing? Do you need to be making calls to your lawmakers? I mean, how is Washington treating this issue?
So here we go. Washington actually is in the process of trying to make it even harder to regulate PFAS in the environment. There's a new bill that's being proposed by the GOP in the House that would actually gut the current Toxic Substances Control Act, which already has been so slow to try to take these PFAS-containing products out of our consumer market, get them out of there and get PFAS-free products put in place. So again, they're in the process of trying to weaken what is already a very slow-to-move law.
Dr. Sutherland, anything else you want to add today on a very important topic? We appreciate your time.
So I think it is important for people to really understand the health effects of PFAS. This is not a minor issue. It causes, absolutely been related in human studies, decreased fertility in men and women, preterm birth and very low birth rate, a very problematic problem for kidneys and liver that can lead to cancer, thyroid disease, and in addition to that, high cholesterol that can lead to stroke and heart attack. This is not a minor issue in terms of your health risks.
Yeah, some really great advice there, and you can catch more interviews like this weekdays right here on 11Alive Plus. And remember, the stories, they don't end here. Streaming on 11Alive Plus today, we are following the trial of Colin Gray, the father of the accused Appalachia High School shooter. And then more news and weather coming up at 2 o'clock and Beyond the Podium at 6:30. All this and more right here on 11Alive Plus.
Well, we're looking at 67 degrees for the afternoon high temperature today, above our average for this time of year. We're going to stay there pretty much all week long. Plenty of sunshine, at least to start the week. Clouds will begin to move in by the time we get to Wednesday, middle of the week. We'll heat up to 70.